Welcome to a new season of Whether or Not. We have your nature in the news stories, including volcanoes in Antarctica and a dangerous situation in California. Addis will have your weekend forecast, and Colby has a feature recapping the solar eclipse. Don't go away, Whether or Not starts right now. Welcome to the first episode of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Kristy Steward.
I'm your forecaster, Addis Juklo.
Well, this is the first week of classes here at Penn State, and we had a little bit of interesting weather on Tuesday.
Yeah, a little bit of a wake-up call for our students that came back. We had quite a bit of rain, even some storms across the area. The good news is we have some much nicer weather to talk about for this weekend, of course. First full weekend that our students are back. Everybody looking to do something outside. So look for that forecast coming up in just a little bit.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing what we can do for our weekend plans. But without further ado, here is Nature in the News. Have you ever tried breathing through a straw? I haven't, but I imagine it would be quite difficult. Unfortunately, because of warming ocean waters, fish will begin to feel like they're breathing that way. Since fish are cold-blooded animals, they can't regulate their own body temperatures. So when water's warm, their metabolism accelerates and they need more oxygen to sustain body functions. The problem is their gills won't be able to supply enough oxygen. A fish's gills grow faster than their body, so to compensate for this lack of air, fish will begin to shrink up to 30% in size, leading to shifts in underwater predator-prey relationships and impacts on the fishing industry. Fish will also be compensating for less available oxygen in the ocean. As the surface layer of the ocean warms, it prevents oxygen from reaching lower layers and creates dead zones. Since 1960, oxygen has already declined by more than 2% in the ocean.
Dr. Herb Needleman, known as a hero for exposing the long-term effects of lead on the brain, has died. Being a pediatrician and a psychiatrist, he had a strong sense for how many people experienced lead poisoning. More specifically, the many children who had seizures, ended up in comas, or died each year in American cities. In the 1960s and 70s, people assumed as long as blood levels remained normal, there was no consequence of releasing chemicals with the making of water pipes, batteries, and gasoline. Dr. Needleman asserted that lead exposure led to long-term effects to the brain, and for that thinking, he was persecuted. But scientists eventually saw the effects lead had on kids' performance in school and their overall behavior. Even if lead levels had fallen, children continued to have long-term problems, falling about 5 IQ points behind the average student. Even while being pursued by the lead industry and investigators, Dr. Needleman sought the truth and eventually opened the eyes to scientists and pediatricians across the world.
91 more volcanoes have been found beneath the West Antarctica ice sheet, bringing the total to 138 known volcanoes along the West Antarctic Rift System. With this discovery, the West Antarctic Rift System is now one of the largest volcanic regions in the world, and it is predicted to surpass the world's current highest volcano density area, East Africa's volcanic ridge, which is home to Mount Kilimanjaro. Scientists are currently working to see how active the newly found Antarctic volcanoes are. Some of these volcanoes reach a height of 12,000 feet below the ice shelf. If an eruption occurs, it would melt a tremendous amount of ice in a short period of time, and sea level rise could become accelerated.
In California, concerns for air and water pollution are growing with the proposed expansion of an oil tunnel. Last fall, many Vallejo and Benicia residents called in to complain about odors from outside, which made many sick and forced 100 to the emergency room. The apparent cause was toxic air that was blowing over the bay from an oil spill at the Phillips 66 marine oil terminal nearby in Rodeo. A proposal to expand that tunnel has raised questions over oil spills, lack of air quality monitoring, and inadequate emergency response. Environmentalists say by doubling the current amount of oil that is brought in by ship, there will be a significantly higher risk of oil spills in the bay. Authorities still don't know what caused last year's spill, and now residents in Vallejo are worried they won't find out about more toxic air until it's too late. Phillips 66 says the project won't increase the amount of oil refined in its plant, but residents remain skeptical. I'm Juklo here with your central Pennsylvania forecast, and we're talking about some very nice weather, comfortable weather as we head into this weekend. That's all thanks to this area of high pressure that will be over the Great Lakes, so that'll help bring northerly winds into Pennsylvania, keeping us on the cool side, but also on the very comfortable side. There will also be a good deal of sunshine as we head into this weekend. In terms of the upper levels of the atmosphere, really not much is going to change over the next several days. We'll see this dip in the jet stream across the northeast, so that will keep us cool. It'll lead to a few clouds, but I'm not expecting any rain for several more days. Now notice into Saturday, into Sunday as well, we continue to see that dip in the jet stream, and then another one looks to develop as we head into early next week. So really not much of a change from this pattern. Dry, a few clouds every now and again. Otherwise, notice the colors really don't change much, so our temperatures will stay very similar over the next several days. Friday, 74 degrees, a few passing clouds during the afternoon, otherwise lots of sunshine. Downright chilly for Friday night. We'll drop it down into the upper 40s, so it's been a while since we've been in the 40s. Some of us might need a light jacket if we're going to be out late Friday night. Saturday, lots of sunshine again. Temperatures reaching the mid-70s, still about 5 degrees below average. And then Sunday, we'll do it all again. High temperature, 74 degrees under a mostly sunny sky. Colby is coming up next with this week's feature.
This past Monday, people all across North America viewed an astronomical phenomenon known as a solar eclipse. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon crosses paths with the sun and covers it, causing daytime to briefly turn into night, as seen in this time-lapse video from Alliance, Nebraska. In order to safely view the eclipse, special eclipse glasses that provided sufficient protection from the intense solar radiation were necessary in order to prevent causing permanent damage to your eyes. Those who were not able to get their hands on these glasses resorted to homemade versions from cereal boxes. Here in State College, we saw a partial eclipse of about 80% coverage, while those fortunate enough to be in the path of totality, which stretched from Oregon to Charleston, South Carolina, saw a total solar eclipse for a few minutes during the afternoon. We caught up with Bill Syrett, a professor of meteorology here at Penn State, to ask him about the eclipse, what temporary effects it has on the weather, and what makes it so special.
Kind of a cosmic coincidence. The moon is about 400 times smaller than the sun. The sun is about 400 times farther away from the earth than the moon, and therefore they're just about the same size if they cross paths. There were observations from several stations that went through totality yesterday, and 8 to 10 degree temperature drops seem very common. And a personal story, my daughter was in North Carolina and noticed the definite cooling, and the evening bugs came out and the birds did some funny things, and then before you know it, it was morning again. And fascinating. For those I've talked to that went through it, it was really a fascinating experience. Just think, social media makes it easy to stir people into a frenzy, and again, it was kind of like a present to the United States. It was just ours to enjoy and witness, and people have easy access to the towns where they knew there was going to be a total eclipse.
Several current and former Penn State students traveled towards the path of totality to view the total eclipse. These images are some of their best from the event, with some coming from former Whether or Not members. We also had the chance to talk to 3 Penn State meteorology students who traveled down south to view the total eclipse.
It was a moment of unity, definitely, when so many people were coming together. And we even saw someone had an Alaskan license plate, and so that's something that we definitely were not expecting. In addition to people with Canadian license plates, British Columbia, Quebec, etc. There were all kinds of people all across the country who decided to come down to Andrews, North Carolina, just to see this eclipse. And this was particularly fascinating because it goes to show you this universal fascination, no matter where you are in the country, about this solar eclipse.
We dropped about 11 degrees Fahrenheit during the time of the eclipse, from 81 to 70 degrees.
Yeah, there was a local recording station that had 11-degree drop. You also did notice the change in insects. You had some nighttime insects start chirping. local lights actually came on, like street lights came on.
Car lights.
It was
Pure emotion.
jubilation,
Yeah.
pure emotion.
Pure
There were a
emotion.
few people who I think were almost in tears.
We were hugging each other after.
We were hugging each other. Actually, but right before the eclipse, there were a few clouds in the area, so we were a little concerned. But we got lucky. They kind of broke up, and then the eclipse with the darkening skies, that also helped. We noticed that a lot of the clouds in the air just kind of dissipated, and during totality. But it was just pretty much jubilation. There was a lot of cheering, a lot of emotions being. Actually, I'm pretty sure somebody a few tents down from us proposed during the eclipse, because I heard somebody else, she said yes during the totality. But yes, it was a very, very exciting, very emotional experience.
If you couldn't tell from the enthusiasm of the Penn State meteorology students, the solar eclipse was a wonderful event that everyone all across the country could enjoy. And as it turns out, 2024, in April, there's going to be another total eclipse closer to us up in northwestern PA. So I thought, since I lost my solar glasses, I'd get a head start on buying them for then. For Whether or Not, this is Colby McCabe.
It's time to take a peek into the extended forecast. A very nice weekend ahead filled with lots of sunshine, cool temperatures, and very low humidity. And one way you can tell is by looking at those overnight lows. We'll be dropping it down into the upper 40s overnight this weekend. So certainly some crisp mornings ahead. As I mentioned, lots of sunshine, a few passing clouds throughout the day. Now the sunshine will continue into early next week, but as we head towards mid next week, that's when we'll start to see a few more clouds move in, and things will start to turn a little more unsettled as we head into late next week. Could see a couple showers move in by Thursday and Friday. We could even see some influence from Tropical Storm Harvey. And of course, we'll continue to keep our eye on that in the next several days here. Notice the temperature line pretty straight there, not really going anywhere next week in terms of temperatures, staying in generally the mid 70s and still a good 5 to 6 degrees below average.
Well, I certainly am looking forward to walking my dog in this gorgeous weather this weekend, and I'm sure many folks at home are also looking forward to this gorgeous weekend ahead.
Absolutely, a great way to start off the semester, and of course it's still August, so when we have 70s, I don't think we can complain. And also, when you have sunshine that isn't blocked out, right? Now, it was blocked out earlier this week, as some of us may remember.
Yeah, and speaking of the solar eclipse, we asked you earlier in the show, when was the first recorded solar eclipse? Was it A, 3340 BC, B, 1548 BC, C, 331 AD, or D, 1206 AD? If you guessed A, you are correct. The first recorded solar eclipse was discovered on petroglyphs carved onto 3 stone monuments in Ireland.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All the way back that far.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
And you know, Paul Griffin, an Irish paleoarchaeologist, confirmed the petroglyphs referred to the eclipse using astronomical software to calculate the alignment of the sun and moon. Griffin confirmed the eclipse date as November 30th, 33040 BC, back in 2002.
Wow, that is incredible. I had no idea they could even track something like that way back then.
Yeah, we had ours this week, but thousands and thousands of years ago, they still had them.
No, that's amazing. Well, that's all that we have for this episode of Whether or Not. I've been your host, Kristy Steward.
I'm your forecaster, Juklo.
Have a great night.